Yo, dude, you coming? Let's go. Oh, hey man, what's up? Yeah, just let me finish this tweet. I'll be 2 seconds. Come on, man, we're going to be late. Let's go, wrap it up. Dude, it's only a tweet. What's the worst that could happen? Do you hear that? Oh my god. Falcons fans. What do you want to talk about? Yes, hello everybody, and welcome back once again to the Dynasty Hot Seat, the only Dynasty show out there that is a certified inferno. Today, off the back of a tweet that was way more viral than I intended it to be, we're going to talk about a big-time sell in Dynasty Fantasy Football, and that is the one and only Drake London. Before we get into it, though, make sure you give him that thumbs up, that like, that subscribe, and all of that good stuff. You'll enjoy this video, I'm sure. Well, hopefully you will, unless you're a Falcons fan. So I'm going to split this video up into a couple of different parts, so it's a bit easier to digest for people. All comes into the fact that I think at his value right now, Drake London is a sell in Dynasty Fantasy Football. So let's get to part one, which is stating the obvious. So stating the obvious, something I didn't think I would have to do, but I mean, here we are. This is a Dynasty Take right here, all right? Now, I really wish a lot of people read that because, as you can see, some of the comments popping up, not everyone read that. Now, a lot of people leaving those comments, they were Falcons fans, so I can't really blame them too much because if you're a Falcons fan, there's a 70% chance that you're subscribed to multiple OnlyFans accounts and your parents don't love you. So I can't really tease you too bad for your lack of basic comprehension skills. But, you know, sure enough, you knuckle draggers really went for me, didn't you? Smashing your knuckles against the screen before you even realized that this is a Dynasty Take. Do I think Drake London's going to finish better than wide receiver 34 or wide receiver 30 next year? Yeah. Does that really matter for Dynasty? Not really. I'm going to get into so much trouble from Falcons fan. I'm teasing. You're not all knuckle draggers, just most of you. And, oh, the comments, they really cut me so deep that you don't know ball. I just need a minute. That one really hurt. So yeah, I think Drake London in this new scheme with Kirk Cousins is 100%, like almost locked in barring injury, going to be finishing better than wide receiver 34 or wide receiver 30. So before I get tweets at me in a year's time, like when he finishes wide receiver 20 or whatever, people going, see, he did finish better. It's a Dynasty Take. I don't care about his redraft value. I care about his Dynasty value. So if you're about to say that, pause. You're missing the point. Now, at the time I said the tweet out, Drake London was listed as wide receiver 10 on Keep Trade Cut, and hey, he's listed as wide receiver 11 right now. So I mean, technically, I was right already. He's already worth less than he was just a few days ago, so. But that's not my main point, right? I'm not going to do a victory lap over that. My main point is, even if he does better than wide receiver 30 or 34, which, again, I'm sure he will, he has to do so much better than that. Because look at the company he's keeping here. If his Dynasty value is to increase, he's going to have to overtake one of these guys. Chris Olave, AJ Brown, Malik Neighbors, Garrett Wilson, Puka Nacua, Marvin Harrison Jr., Amon-Ra St. Brown, Jamar Chase, CeeDee Lamb, and Justin Jefferson. I don't see him overtaking a lot of them. I can see Malik Neighbors. I could see Chris Olave. Those are the two names I can see him jumping. And that's only if he has a really good season, and we'll get to that in part 3. What does he actually need to do to overtake those guys? But let's have a look at the chasing pack as well. Look at the guys behind him. Jalen Waddle, Rome Odunze, Tyreek Hill. He's probably not going to go up. He's too old. You got Brandon Ayuk, Devonta Smith, Michael Pittman Jr., DJ Moore, T. Higgins, Nico Collins, Zay Flowers, Dell is there, JSN is there. There are tons of guys chasing him down as well. Even if Drake London has a better season, that does not mean that all the other guys around him aren't going to have a good season also. That kind of brings us to part 3. So London, to really earn his value as the wide receiver 10 in Dynasty, I don't think it's too far to say he's got to finish as a wide receiver 1. He needs to finish inside that top 12 or that ranking will go down. There's no way it can rise, and it is very unlikely that it will stay the same. So let's have a look at the guys he would have to beat next year. Do you see him beating CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Mike Evans, Puka, DJ Moore, Deebo Samuel, AJ Brown, Nico Collins, he might get ahead of. Probably will, maybe, right? Brandon Ayuk, that's pretty close. Keenan Allen, Stephon Diggs, Jamar Chase, he's going to be healthier, you would assume. Devontae Adams, Metcalf, Amari Cooper. Look at all these guys. And look, you know who you're not seeing? You know who you're not seeing there? Justin Jefferson, he's not there. You know who you're not seeing there? Marvin Harrison Jr., Malik Neighbors, Cooper Kupp, guys who are going to come back from injury. Look at that top 20. That is a killer's row. That's just to finish as a wide receiver 2. He's going to really find it quite tricky, I think. I think he can quite comfortably finish as it, but it won't be easy. But to get inside that top 12, that is really, really difficult to do. And let's have a little look and see, what do some of the redraft players think he'll end up as? Let's have a look at their rankings. So again, this is as per Fantasy Pros. This is the redraft rankings currently for 2024. I don't see Drake London inside that top 12. That is worrying for his value, because if he does not finish inside that top 12, in my opinion, his value must go down. He's not inside the top 15. He's not inside the top 20. Currently, redraft players are taking Drake London as their wide receiver 21 off the board. And let me tell you, if Drake London finishes as wide receiver 21 this year, curtains for his value. You cannot finish as wide receiver 34 and wide receiver 31 and then wide receiver 21 and expect to be ranked inside the top 10. He shouldn't be there already, in my opinion, but another season where he doesn't crack the top 20, that's not just bad for his value, that's catastrophic. And that's currently where he's expected to go as per Fantasy Pros. I think that's a little low personally, but that's what the consensus is at the moment. I suppose the most important question is, can he actually break out? And yeah, I think he can. He's listed as a wide receiver 10 despite never finishing inside the top 30. That's rather unique. I can't really remember a time when that's happened before. I think it's quite unusual for that to happen. Have players finish wide receiver 30 or worse 2 years in a row and come back to be a force in Dynasty? Hell yes. Stephon Diggs, happened to him. He took 3 years to finish inside the top 30. With Kirk Cousins as his quarterback, which is slightly awkward. It took Devontae Adams 3 years to break out as well, and he turned into a beast. Nico Collins has literally just done it. So that is something that can happen and may happen with Drake London. I'm not ruling it out. Let's have a look and see what happened to their value immediately after that. Now, I'm using my values from a great website called Fantasy Football Calculator. I only just discovered it making this video. It's great. You can go back and check out the consensus rankings for players year by year. It's really, really cool and quite interesting to go back and see who was ranked where. So shout out to those guys. Go and check them out. It's a really cool website. So if we start with Stephon Diggs, if we look at 2018, that was his post-breakout, can I just say, post-breakout year. Something Drake London has not had yet, shall I repeat. He went to be ranked as wide receiver 11, post-breakout. That's where Drake London is right now. If you look at Devontae Adams in 2017 post-breakout, he was ranked as wide receiver 21. And in fact, it was only after doing it 2 years in a row that he cracked the top 10 wide receivers, ranked as wide receiver 7. And we look at Nico Collins. He's just had a wide receiver 1 season. He's listed a wide receiver 20, despite already breaking out and finishing as a top guy. And this is one of my reasons to sell, because people are treating Drake London like he's already broken out, like he's already a top guy. Hell, people are treating him like he's already super established, like Devontae Adams was when he did it 2 years in a row. He's done it 0 years in a row. And I don't really know where his value can go from here. We looked at it can't really go up that much, even post breakout. Maybe there are other guys apart from Diggs and Adams and Collins, but I can't really think of anyone else recently who's had 2 years of sluggishness and then broken out, and we can look at their rankings. But leave a comment if you can tell me, and I'll look into them. But that's my main reason to sell. He's being treated like an established guy. He's not. He's finished in the 30s both times. He hasn't broken out yet, and we're treating him like he has. But a lot of people say you got to look into the numbers as well. Let's specifically look at those guys that broke out, Stephon Diggs and Davante Adams and Nico Collins, and compare them to Drake London. Now, unfortunately, I haven't been able to find, because the big thing for Drake London is his catchable pass percentage. For whatever reason, the Fantasy Pros website I was looking at, the catchable targets for Diggs and for Adams in their breakout years was above 100%. I don't think that's correct. Like, I don't see how they can have more catchable targets than actual targets. So unfortunately, I can't give you the number for them. But what I can tell you is the amount of targets they had in the 2 years prior to their breakout. Stephon Diggs was 196. Davante Adams was 160. Nico Collins was only 126. Drake London's had 227 targets. Now, that is at a 68% catchable clip as well. 68%. Not horrible. Look at Nico Collins's. It was 57%. 57%. So I think it's fair to say he's had more catchable targets than Collins. And if you look at it, Davante Adams had 160 targets. London had 156 catchable targets. I think it's fair to say he had more catchable targets than Davante Adams did as well. Now, Diggs, he had 196. Maybe it's similar. But he's been given a fair shake to show it. So what we have to really look at now is, what the hell has he done when he's actually got the ball? When Drake London actually has the ball in his hands, you'd think it would be good. He's on a run-heavy offense, and he's got a pretty good air dot as well. So you'd think he'd be pretty good with the yards after the catch, right? He's not. He's just not. I mean, lots of people told me this is what you have to look at. He's a baller. You don't watch football. You don't know ball. Look at Drake London and what he does. Some people even took time out of their day begging people for money on Twitter to comment on it. But here's what I see. I have it ranked to make it as fair as possible, not by targets, not by catches, but by catchable targets. You can see that here, catchable. Drake London's down here, 73 catchable targets. Yards after the catch, let's have a look just so I can show you. That's in this column here. Right? Yards after the catch. CeeDee Lamb, 676 yards after the catch. What an absolute hoss. Let's find Drake London. 184 yards after the catch. Now, not only is that worse than anybody with more catchable targets than him, which, you know, maybe isn't that surprising, but also, quite worryingly, I think, for a guy like Drake London, it's also worse than a lot of the guys with less, or the same. Jordan Addison and Drake London had the exact same amount of catchable targets. Jordan Addison almost 100 yards extra. Jacoby Myers more. Josh Downs doubling what Drake London can produce with yards after the catch. Justin Jefferson, obviously, right? It's Justin Jefferson. Jackson Smith and Jigba, Tyler Boyd, Reed, Pickens. You have to go down to a guy like Cortland Sutton before you get to someone with worse yards after the catch. And you can scroll all the way down. Look, all these guys with 50, 50 catchable targets, less than 50 catchable targets, doing more after the catch than Drake London can. Now, I understand that ADOT comes into this, and I understand that there's different schemes and there's different ways that you can run that as well. So I thought we could have a little look and make it even fairer again for Drake London. So let's look at some other teams that were super run heavy, shall we? So the Atlanta Falcons were listed as the third most run heavy team in the NFL this year, only behind, unsurprisingly, the Cleveland Browns at 2 and the Baltimore Ravens at number 1. Let's have a look at some of their main targets though, shall we? Zay Flowers, yards after the catch, 391. That's real nice. Amari Cooper for the Browns, 271 yards after the catch. Drake London, 184. Now, you may be saying, what about the ADOT? What about the ADOT? Take this as you want, but Zay Flowers' ADOT was 8.4. Amari Cooper's was 14.3, and Drake London's was 11.5, right in the middle. So, I don't know. Can you argue that someone's ADOT is too high or too low? Sure. Can you argue someone's ADOT is too medium? I don't think so. I don't think that's a fair argument to make. But hey, it's a new chapter coming up for Drake London. He's going to have a better scheme and a better quarterback throwing the ball. So let's have a look and see how the scheme and the quarterback were holding him back, shall we? So I think it's fair to say Drake London has not had good quarterback play. He's a Marcus Mariota, he's a Taylor Heineke, and he's a Desmond Ridder. London managed to finish very poorly, as we know, under all of them. But let's see, is he the best receiver that these poor quarterbacks have had? Have these quarterbacks historically always just churned out terrible receivers? Let's have a look at Marcus Mariota. He played 13 games with Drake London in 2022. So let's have a look at any season he played more than 12 games, which is 2015 through 2018. And of course, 2022 with Drake London. In 2022, Drake London scored 10.5 points per game, 178.6 fantasy points in total. Let's go back to 2015. Marcus Mariota starting. Delaney Walker finishes the tight end 2 as his main target. He outscored Drake London by 65 points. He averaged 16.3 fantasy points per game. The next year in 2016, Rashard Matthews, he finishes wide receiver 21. He outscored him 13.2 fantasy points per game. The year after that, Delaney Walker again outscored Drake London again, 10.9 fantasy points per game. Even Matthews, who was injured that year, he outscored him 11.2 fantasy points per game as the number 2 option. In 2018, Corey Davis was wide receiver 28, 11.5 points per game. He outscored Drake London as well. So statistically speaking, Drake London is the worst performing number 1 target Marcus Mariota has ever had. That's true. Taylor Heineke, 2021 was his only starting year. He got Terry McLaurin to wide receiver 25, 12.6 fantasy points per game, better than Drake London managed to get with Heineke. Now, I understand that it was different schemes, different coaches. Don't think that I don't know that. In fact, if I know one thing about fantasy football, it's that Athur Smith is the devil and he will kill your fantasy football points. So let's have a little look at his history, shall we? Let's have a look at when he was the offensive coordinator at the Tennessee Titans, will we? With Ryan Tannehill as the quarterback, not exactly lighting the world on fire. And I dare you to tell me they weren't a run-first team with Derrick Henry at the helm. 2019, the number 1 receiver was A.J. Brown. He finished as wide receiver 21 with 217.1 fantasy points, 13.6 per game. The next year, A.J. Brown again did better than Drake London, 247.7 and 17.7 fantasy points per game. That's what an elite wide receiver does with poor quarterback play and poor scheme. That's what an elite wide receiver does. By the way, that same year, 2020, Corey Davis, the wide receiver 2, he also outproduced Drake London. He finished as wide receiver 30 and managed 13.7 fantasy points per game. Better than Drake London. If you really want to put your tinfoil hat on, I think this is too far. But if you really want to put your tinfoil hat on, if you look at the year before Drake London arrived in, the year that it was the Atlanta Falcons, the same scheme, Russell Gage had a better points per game than Drake London. He missed a couple of games, so it meant that he finished as wide receiver 38. But that's only 4 spots worse than Drake London, and he played 5 less games. Same team, same coach. Awful quarterback play. So, if you look at it in fantasy points per game basis, Drake London is the worst number 1 target Marcus Mariota's ever had. The worst number 1 target Taylor Heineke's ever had. The worst number 1 target Athur Smith ever had as offensive coordinator. The worst number 1 target Athur Smith ever had as a head coach. But what about Kirk Cousins? Before we get into Kirk Cousins, let me get one thing very clear with you all. My opinion here. Justin Jefferson made Kirk Cousins, not the other way around. And I really firmly believe that, because if Kirk Cousins was such an elite quarterback, why have 2 teams let him walk out the door? You do not do that. If you have an elite quarterback, you do everything you can to keep them. So yeah, let's have a look and see, digging deeper into Kirk Cousins and what it was like. This is where I got into trouble, right? So let's go ahead and let's pull up the original tweet that got me in so much trouble, will we? Okay, so here you can see, this is Kirk Cousins' number 1 receiver before Justin Jefferson, as per my tweet. In 2015, it was Garcon with a result of wide receiver 31. In 2016, Garcon, again, wide receiver 23. 2017, Jamison Crowder was wide receiver 33, looking similar to Drake London numbers, if not better. Then 2018, Adam Thielen, wide receiver 7. That's what Drake London needs this year. That's what he needs. And 2019, Stephon Diggs was wide receiver 24. And then I say, keep telling yourself that Kirk Cousins is the reason that Drake London's going to rebound. I think that's where most people got pissed off. People don't like it whenever you say that, apparently. But yeah, I don't think Kirk Cousins is going to be the reason that Drake London can rebound and sustain his wide receiver value. And then the bit at the bottom, hey, Look at that sell. That might have been another clue as to why it was a Dynasty tweet, knuckle draggers, along with, hey, look, clue number 1, that says Dynasty in the picture. Clue number 2, what does that say? The word Dynasty. Clue number 3, what's that? Hey, it's the word Dynasty. I wonder how you could have ever thought that this was a redraft take. Maybe only if you're a Falcons fan and all you can see is the hairy knuckles smashing off your phone screen. I'm in so much trouble. I'm in so much trouble, man. Now, you may think Kirk Cousins is a changed man. That's not the Kirk Cousins that we know today. You may think Drake London's better than all those guys, which, you know, he might be. I don't think he's better than Stefan Diggs necessarily, but he might be. He might be. So the big knock obviously was this catchable target. That's what all the Falcons fans were telling me. Everyone was saying, catchable target, catchable target, catchable target. Now, I cocked up the first time I tried to look this up because I read something as a percentage. It wasn't a percentage, but thankfully, I've got guys like Big Tom Strachan to help me out. So thanks, Tom, for providing the numbers for this one. You can see that it's about the goddamn same. Kirk Cousins last year when he was active, he targeted Justin Jefferson at a 68% catchable radius. The same as Drake London. Jordan Addison, that was 69%. Nice. That's not a big difference here. But the big difference is definitely going to be volume. London really should see more volume coming his way here. I think that is a guarantee. And even in PPR leagues, that should boost him up a lot. In fact, Cousins, before I get injured, was throwing at about 30% more than the Falcons were last year. So I love that for Drake London. I think that is huge for him. But he's got to do something after the catch. If he's not doing anything after the catch, that's still worrying for me, and he's proven so far that he's not very good at it. I also think something that's really going to help him is touchdowns. Cousins is an elite red zone thrower. He was trusted only behind Patrick Mahomes in the red zone last year, so I expect that to continue on. That is where Drake London really could rise up the ranks. We've seen it with Devontae Adams in his breakout year, actually. It was touchdowns that really broke him through. Drake London could do the same. Absolutely, there is a road to redemption here. But he's made an awful start, right? I don't think even the most staunch Drake London fan can say they're happy with the production in fantasy they're getting out of him. No way. You can't start him most weeks, guys. You can't. Unless in best ball, you might be pleased with him for his boom bust weeks. But right now, he's not startable. Next year, maybe. But the real question you should be asking yourself here as a Drake London owner is, what happens if he doesn't break out next year? Now, I'm going to use an extreme example here, but this is something that has happened, and it's even more extreme than the Drake London scenario here, because this is a guy that in 2019, he had a breakout year. In 2018. Again, unlike Drake London, he's not had a breakout year yet. Let me just keep reminding you of that. Juju Smith-Schuster was ranked as wide receiver 5, believe it or not, in 2019. Now, he earned that. He finished wide receiver 8, and he was a young gun, right? He was a young guy. He produced wide receiver 8. That bumped him all the way up to Dynasty wide receiver 5. But that would be the last time he finished as a wide receiver 1. And this is why I keep saying Drake London has to finish as a wide receiver 1. Because the next year, in 2020, Juju went all the way down to wide receiver 13. By 2021, he was wide receiver 33. That's how quickly things move on. And I mean, we all know where he is now. Look, there it is. Look, not that long ago. 2020, wide receiver 12, he was listed as then and keep trade cut. And it just falls off a cliff. It just goes down and down and down. As soon as you stop producing, this is what happens to the value. I am shocked it's not happened to Drake London yet. I think there are a lot of people making a lot of excuses, a lot of them valid. But the way that this market works, if you don't produce, you do not get the value. We've seen it with Juju Smith-Schuster. Even when he had a year of great production, we see it happen time after time after time again. It will happen to Drake London unless he finishes as a wide receiver 1. It will happen. And that brings me around to just remembering the point of this whole thing. What is Drake London on your Dynasty team? He is an asset. And he is a risky asset right now, in my opinion. If he's on Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, he's out of lifelines. This is his last chance to finish as a high-end wide receiver. Is there a chance that he can do it? Yes. But his room to grow is so small, and his room to fall is so large, that it's a no-brainer for me. I think you sell, you pivot down, You look at some of the guys below, like we mentioned earlier, like Michael Pittman Jr. and those guys, and you take a Michael Pittman Jr. plus. You take a Devonta Smith plus right now. You have to. So to me, it just looks cut and dry. Drake London right now is ranked at 10 despite never finishing inside the top 30. He's got a quarterback that outside of Justin Jefferson has never really consistently shown that he can field wide receiver ones in fantasy football. And he's got, let me remind you, one of the best running backs in the league that needs to be fed. A tight end that's going to be hungry for targets as well. He's not the only show in town. It's too risky for me. Any Drake London I have, which isn't many as you can imagine, I'm getting rid of. I'm pivoting down. I'm taking plus from. And this is why. I would love to hear your opinions. If you can tell me why you think that he's not a sell right now, why you think that he's actually a hold, or if you're buying Drake London now at this price, let me know. Obviously not intending to offend anyone in this video. I'm having a joke. I'm having a laugh. It has been good fun. If you haven't enjoyed it, hit that like and that subscribe button. It's been great fun doing this video for you all. If you like it, I might do some more buys and sells in the future, but we'll wait and see. Thanks for joining, everyone. And remember, for anything Dynasty you need to know, keep it locked on the Certified Inferno. Sell Drake London. Peace.